And welcome. We are on a new episode of Incongruent, and this time we are talking health, AI in the realm of healthcare and the early detection of skin cancers and melanomas. Obviously, we are not a health podcast. We are not doctors. We are not medically qualified in any sense of the imagination. So this is not any form of advice or recommendations. This is purely a discussion on a AI startup that is looking at helping out in this particular field and what AI can possibly do in this field in the future. I am joined today on this investigation by not Dr. Radhika Mathur.
Hi, everyone.
Good. So, Radhika, not Dr. Radhika, who did we speak to today?
So we spoke to Jonathan Benasaya, and he has had an amazing and inspiring entrepreneurial career as well as personal journey, which led him to SkinBit, which is what we'll be discussing on the podcast today.
And he's also been involved with at least two amazing companies that we're both aware of, one of them being Deezer, and the other one being Life 360. He's also involved with Meta at some point. And he's really is one of the technology startup hall to fame. If there ever was one of the equivalent of Rolling Stones magazine Hall of Fame entrepreneur technology startups, he's definitely up there. So we're really honored to be here, right, Radhika?
Yes, absolutely. It was such an honor to talk to him, and I cannot wait for every one of you guys to hear what we discussed. So here we go.
And welcome to a new episode of The Incongruent. And today we have a very special discussion. We're going to be talking about AI in the context of healthcare. Now, obviously, we are not a healthcare podcast, and we're not making any recommendations to use any particular service, or we're not making any kind of review of any particular service. This is a discussion on potential applications of AI in healthcare. And today, joining me is Radhika Mathur. Hello, Radhika.
Hi.
And Radhika, you're going to be taking over from me here, so let me pass the baton to you and please proceed.
So welcome everyone to another episode, and we are proud to welcome Jonathan Benasaya on our podcast today. Jonathan is a serial entrepreneur passionate about improving people's lives through technology. In 2007, he co-founded Deezer, which became the pursuer to the music streaming market. In 2013, he founded Stream Nation to create an AI-powered photo shoebox, and in 2017 he joined Matrix Partners as entrepreneur in residence and partner on fintech investments. During COVID-19, he joined Life 360 as their first chief product officer, and then Meta to manage their payment platform. Jonathan was diagnosed with melanoma in 2020 and has been through the traumatic process of dealing with skin cancer. Throughout his treatment course, he experienced and interacted with antiquated and an inefficient system. After his treatment, he started to look for solutions to find a better way to prevent, detect, and treat skin cancer, which brought him to create SkinBit. At SkinBit, he leverages breakthrough technology to totally rethink how we detect and address skin cancer. He has developed millimetre wave imaging that identifies cancer in under a minute and with unmatched accuracy. It's a concrete example of using new tech to not only improve but fundamentally shift an industry that's been stuck with slow manual workflows. Welcome to our podcast, Jonathan.
Hi, and thanks for having me.
So we'll just get right into it because we're so excited to talk to you about all of this. You've spoken about your melanoma diagnosis as both traumatic and transformative. Was there a specific moment during your treatment when you realized the existing system was broken and that you might be the one to fix it?
It's not only one moment, it's multiple moments. So first, my melanoma was missed because it was during COVID, so we had masks. And the doctor looked at me with her eyes, and after 2 minutes, she said I was fine. And it's only when I was paying my visit at the reception that I don't know, maybe I had like an angel looking up for me, because at that moment the doctor went at the reception desk, like the counter, and she took a file and she looked at me and she was like, "Oh, I forgot to check beneath your mask." And then I went back to the examination room, and then she looked beneath my mask and she saw this this dark spot that didn't look like different than the others. And she felt like this one needed a biopsy, which I pushed back on because I had many biopsies in my life and they always came back negative, which raised the question of the efficiency of this approach. But that's probably the moment where I felt like, wow, could you imagine if I had left that office a little bit faster? Could you imagine? My melanoma would have been probably metastatic when the whole things would have been diagnosed. So that's one. And then second, when I went for my treatment, I was told by the doctor that the standard of care was what is called a wide margin excision. Long story short, a huge patch of tissue being removed for a very small lesion. We're talking about 25 millimeter diameter of skin for a 3 millimeter lesion, so 1:10 ratio. Actually, 1:100 because we're talking about surfaces. If I did not push back on this very specific treatment, I would have lost half my nose, which I actually advocated for myself and eventually prevailed because she only removed 15% of what was supposed to be removed. So when I saw that, I was like, holy cow, pardon my French, but holy cow, there is something weird about this whole thing. And that's when I started to dig deeper on skin cancer, and that's what led me to create SkinBit.
Your entire story is just really shocking because, like you said, it could have very easily been missed. It was just like a fraction of a moment, but thankfully it wasn't. And I'll move on to our next question. You helped pioneer digital transformation in entertainment with Deezer and now in healthcare with SkinBit. What parallels and what profound differences do you see between disrupting how we listen to music and how we detect cancer?
So if you take a step back, when you look at music is it's like a tripod. You have the content, you have the distribution, and you have the users. Okay, so and you need those three to be able to work. And in health, you have the patients, you have the doctors, and you have eventually the insurance. So you still have like three different like type of actors, and you cannot work with only one. Like it has to be the three of them. So working in usually in business you work with only one counterpart, all right? But in those like very specific type of business, you have to play a dance, or you have to dance a dance that requires to navigate different type of stakeholders with different type of objectives. And if you look at Deezer, the main challenge was how do we move from an acquisition model, an ownership model, to an access model, which was what the consumer wanted. The distribution did not exist, and the labels were like, no way, we're selling discs. So having to basically align those three types of stakeholders was kind of a very interesting challenge. And the leverage was more the regulatory framework that basically helped, like being a catalyst. I don't know if you remember, but Deezer was founded in France, and France was the very first country to basically support this model. What basically put everyone around the table and aligned everyone was piracy was rampant, and it was killing this industry. So the French government pushed all the stakeholders to sit at the table, and basically we were advocating for being the solution against piracy. And that's what basically drove the labels to start working with us, because they knew that by having this alternative, they would be able to work with their administration on piracy. So that's just to give you the framework. If you go to health, we're not talking about piracy. We're talking about shortage of doctors. We're talking about doctors that are completely overwhelmed. We're talking about diagnoses that are later and later, which basically creates a spike in skin cancer treatment. So you have a combination of challenging access to dermatology plus a very manual approach, meaning that whether you or me go to a dermatologist, they still have to look at us with their eyes. And it's kind of a not very efficient way of doing things. You have health systems that are spending billions and billions of dollars. Like skin cancer is growing the cost of treating skin cancer is growing at more than 16% year over year in the US alone. And you have patients that struggle to see the doctors. They have delayed diagnosis, meaning that they need to have like larger incision for the treatment. Their treatments are more invasive. So it's very different than music, but on the other end, it's also a dance that you dance at three. And in that case, it's the doctors, the patients, and the healthcare system. So it's a long story. It's a long answer, sorry, to say that in SkinBit and in Deezer, we have to deal with these multifaceted type of business dynamics and market dynamics, and I feel like Deezer teach me how to deal with them, and that's how I'm able to navigate that with SkinBit.
That was a really wonderful analogy and comparison that you made across the two sectors, despite their differences, which takes us on to our next question. Can you explain what the technology at SkinBit actually does and what makes it revolutionary compared to traditional dermatological tools?
So before I answer your question, I think it's very important to understand what's the challenge, all right? And as I said, there is not enough doctors. Today, if you take your phone and you try to get an appointment with a derm, it will take between 3 months and 12 months to get an appointment. So that's one. Second, doctors, because there is not enough, doctors are completely squeezed. They have to see 40, 50 patients a day. So their performance is not the best. I mean, the doctor you see at 8 a.m. is probably not as good as the same doctor at 5 p.m. That's kind of human. We're all humans. So the premise of SkinBit is to basically, how can we help doctors to really focus on patients who really need them? And how do we help patients to get an easier access to dermatology care? So when you start combining both, you ask yourself, how do you do that? The way to do that is to basically do what we call a triage, so that you can get your skin checked before you even see a doctor. And this triage can be performed by a scanner, and I'll tell you more about it. A scanner that has an extremely high resolution. We call it dermatoscopic resolution. It's kind of a dermatologic lingo, but it just means that it's kind of magnified at the equivalent of a 10x magnification. So we basically are able to image your entire skin at a resolution that is a clinical resolution, and that allows us to detect all your lesions, understand them over time, if they've changed, if you have new lesions, and for the ones that are kind of weird, allows us to, using AI, to identify or score their potential malignancy. When you're able to do that, then you can shift the paradigm of like the workflow of a doctor. Instead of having all the patients being seen by the doctor, you would have all the patients being scanned by the scanner, and the doctor will only see the patients that the scanner has flagged. So on one end, it's way faster for patients to basically get screened, and it's better for doctors because all of a sudden they don't have to see patients who don't really need them, and they can focus on the patients who really need their care. So that's really I would say, the paradigm shift that we are advocating for. And in order to achieve that, Radhika, we had to think about how can we create these images? How can we create a digital twin of your skin that has enough information for a dermatologist to trust the system to be as good as them doing the screening with their own eyes? Unfortunately, this technology did not exist in the market. There are very few machines that are able to image your skin at a very high resolution in its entirety. And none are close to what is required to get the clinical resolution. And that's what SkinBit has been building. So SkinBit is building. I actually was in Paris last week to get the delivery of our very first scanner. And this technology that we've developed is basically a full body scanner that scans your skin at what we call dermatoscopic resolution, which is the clinical resolution required by a doctor to actually put a diagnosis on something. And as you said during the introduction, we're also working on a second modality, second technology that will allow us to not only image the skin on the surface, but also image the skin under the surface. And it will take time for this technology to be available in the market, but the very first version, which is full body photography at this clinical resolution, will be deployed next year. So that's what wasn't available in the market and what SkinBit is building. And by building this machine that's completely autonomous, that can be deployed at any point of care, you can augment the dermatologic screening capacity of any state, anywhere. The machine has been designed so you can have it even in a pharmacy. You don't have to go to the dermatologist. So all of a sudden, you can not only increase the dermatology capacity of a country, but you also help doctors to do a better job and focus on the right people. So that's really the vision behind SkinBit.
So once you've developed the camera or the lens or these imaging technology, you're then going to need to have data within your model to be able to make a diagnosis. Now, as you say, it's not possible, or is it possible? So where were you going to get that data from in order that you're going to be able to make the predictions? Or is there going to be a phase of we're going to do this service first and then this will be later?
It's a very good question, Stefan. So just so you know where the regulations is going, whether it's in Europe or in the US, is that it's if you want to apply an AI model, this AI needs to be trained with the data coming from the same technology over and over, because they want those like administrative offices want consistency in acquisition, consistency in treatment, and consistency in training. What we've done is we've built a model today based on 50,000 lesions. We've acquired those images through a mix of public data and private data from dermatology clinics. But that is just to basically train and start. It's basically a way to start. And then what we're going to do is, once we deploy our first scanner in Q2 next year, we will basically have a manual review of all our scans with our own dermatologist. And the scanner will be deployed in a dermatology clinic so that if the machine flags something, a dermatologist can do a biopsy and we will get the biopsy results. And that will allow us to create an entire data set that is 100% proprietary, but also coming from our technology with our own images and with a diagnosis that is confirmed through histopathology. So it's a two-step process. One is how do you kickstart or how do you bootstrap? And that's what we've done. And then next year, when we'll have our own machine deployed in the field, then we will replace this data set with a data set that is entirely built through our own technology.
So that's going to take quite some time. But is there, from an entrepreneurial point of view, there's a minimum viable something? Is there a non-medical use that people could use this for, or is that not desirable because it could create false positives or negatives?
So first of all, yes, it will take time, but not that much time, because each time you go, I mean, humans have on average 100 lesions. So the data set is being built super fast. So we're not really worried about it. And the second thing is we've built a workflow internally to be able to basically run those review, those screening with doctors in-house. So we have, before we get to a point where the AI is taking over, we still have some time to get to a few dozens or even hundreds deployments without a need for our AI to be fully operational. Now, you're asking a very good question. Can 3D reconstruction at high resolution be used in other fields? And we have seen a lot of plastic surgeons coming to us, and they were saying, well, let's flip the script. Let's use your scanner to show a before and after treatment. And on top of that, we'll screen for skin cancer. So there is a natural, as I would say, like cosmetic use case that can also be used for this modality.
Super. I shall be using it for that purposes then, to get rid of some of my under eyes. Radhika, let's move on.
So, ethics is always a great consideration when it comes to AI. So, having worked at Meta and Life 360, you've seen both sides of AI, scalable innovation and ethical complexity. How do you ensure that SkinBit's use of AI remains grounded in human well-being rather than data monetization?
I think that's one of the key concerns, to be honest. As we speak, we're working on, like, we're going to publish on our website the SkinBit Covenant, where we basically are very honest, transparent, and upfront about what we do and what we promise to do and what we promise not to do. And on that basically vein, we are going to focus on transparency with our users. So first, we want to make sure that they understand what we're doing. Second, we will never use those data to sell to sell the data to third parties. So everything that we get in SkinBit stays in SkinBit. And then you need to also let the patients opt out of this whole thing. Honestly, I've seen so many dark patterns where users don't even know that their data are being used to train a model. And that's not what we want. We want people to feel that when they participate in the SkinBit program, they help themselves, but also they help others. And that's basically the magic when you work in healthcare. It's a little bit different when your data are there to benefit financially to someone else. Here, the data are here to benefit yourself if there are improvements in the model, and we can retroactively check your photos from the past and see that something was missed. I mean, it benefits you as much as it benefits others. I'm going to repeat what I said. It's about transparency, it's about informing, and it's about letting people opt out. I think that once you do that, you create trust. And once you create trust, that's where you can build the best things and you create the best brand. So it's not only about AI, it's also about building a brand and building trust with your users.
We've got so many different speakers echoing that in different fields. I think the first guest we had was talking about vision computing from a security angle and how they wouldn't capture biometric data because they just did not feel that was something that they wanted to have on their servers and have all of that difficulties. And then just a couple of days ago, we were, who were we talking to? We were digital twins of people's from their public statements, government ministers. So combining technologies together, it could create like proper full-on digital humans. So we're looking at maybe in the future an Amazon or Microsoft buying different services. Anyway, that's something completely I just put in my head.
I agree with you, and I feel like you can build the worst and you can build the best. I feel like our mission is really around detecting skin cancer, and it is so, I feel like, really humble to be the steward of this venture. But at the end of the day, the objective is to help people's life. So I feel like the mission is so important. I have no problem for people to opt out. That's their own. We won't be able to detect, to see if we can detect new things for them. But when you talk to people about like what you do with data, what is it's going to be used for, they are generally pretty excited about it.
Super. Super. So, going back to entrepreneurship and leadership, okay, there's always, in leadership, they say in order to be an entrepreneur, you have to be willing to take risk. And risk from one perspective is a nice concept, but you've gone through an illness which has changed your understanding of what that means. So, what do you consider now? Has it changed your experience on what risk and leadership means?
I think that on the risk side, I mean, you can see I'm probably tackling it's probably the riskiest venture of my entire life, to be honest. You would have probably thought that by being a little bit older, I would be more risk averse, actually increasing my level of risk. But I feel like I've so many scars that I am not going at it completely blind. I feel like I'm anticipating a lot of things, and I can use my my experience to drive the team and basically de-risk a lot of the different aspects of it. So that's really on the risk front. But really, to go back to the question, I think it's all about leadership and being able to shift the script by empowering people. I feel like the most important part of my job today is to people feel like they can have an impact on others' life. And that basically drives their motivation, that drives their ownership and accountability. So on one end, it's extremely risky, but on the other end, the mission resonates so much with the people we work with that I don't have to push them. I'm like, of course, I need to basically organize and make sure we stay on track and we maintain the pace and I find solutions with them. But for the first time, I feel like the mission resonates so much that the leadership is kind of a natural work. It's really a collaboration. And I'm also sharing with the team where we need to be careful and where we need to prioritize, because some of them would want to go more in one direction or the other. And I also have to tell them, hey, what about the next fundraising? What is the milestone we need to reach? You think that this is going to help? So, I am more on the coach side than I was on before, and it's very fun. So it's very interesting, Stephen. I feel like it's a very risky bet in the sense that there is hardware, it's health, it's a lot of very important things, but it's not that risky when you have the right people and they are motivated by the right things. And I think this is how you can build great things.
I think you've answered pretty much all of our questions in your conversations, which is amazing. If there is one call to action for everybody out there, what would you want them to do today, or if you, either from a regulatory, from a consumer, or from a medical practitioner, is there anything that you would?
The first thing is I would ask everyone to get their skin checked on a regular basis. So I'm not here to advocate for my brand or my service. I want people to feel like they have a good handle on their health. And skin health, unfortunately, is very often left on the side. And when it hits you, my friend, it hits you bad and you can die. You can be dying without knowing. So that's the thing. Okay, so do me a favor, even if you're 20-year-old, go see a dermatologist. Even if it's every 2 years, it's totally fine. Okay, so that's really my first call to action. The second one is if you want to stay informed around what we're doing and when you will be able to test the SkinBit system, you can register on our waitlist on our website, www.skinbit.co. And that's it, Stephen. I cannot ask for more than that. I just want people to be aware of their skin, because again, when it hits you, it's not as if you were like bleeding. It's not itching. It's not weird. It's just there and it's killing you.
Fine. Thank you so much. That's the most jolly ending almost. Radhika, would you like to ask anything else or for our wonderful guest, Jonathan, or do you want to close this down?
I just wanted to say that it's amazing learning about this new technology. And also, I think I'm going to book an appointment with my dermatologist ASAP because I'm scared now. But no, it's great what you're doing, and we wish SkinBit the best. So I'll just bring us to a close. So thank you to all of our listeners for tuning in, and thank you so much, Jonathan, for being on our podcast. Everybody like, share, comment wherever possible, and please be sure to tune into our next episode. Bye.
Thank you.